The war in Ukraine has dominated cable news coverage in this country for the past week for obvious reasons. As a result, across all networks, the usual in-studio guests are getting bumped left and right. And when troops are fighting near a nuclear power plant and people are dying, the focus shifts to reporting on the ground, and that's not surprising. But there is one cable news mainstay, a fixture, who has disappeared so abruptly and with so little fanfare that it's worth taking a closer look. For more than 2 years, from the beginning of the pandemic, Tony Fauci was everywhere. No matter what happened in America, BLM riots, January 6th, the presidential election, Tony Fauci was still on television around the clock screeching about COVID.
Go back 60 days or 2 months ago, when you look at the level of virus in the nasopharynx of a person who's vaccinated and gets a breakthrough infection.
No matter how many times he changed his opinion on masks or how much we learned about the gain-of-function research he was funding in Wuhan, Tony Fauci remained omnipresent. No one else on cable news had the same presence. Here's how Tucker described the phenomenon.
In Washington, human power is worshipped as the living God. You'll see temples to human power throughout the city, as well as smaller shrines to its saints. The latest holy man to be beatified there is a diminutive federal bureaucrat called Tony Fauci. Fauci is the high priest of the COVID cult. A paper mask is his sacred garment. Cable television is his pulpit. The people of Washington bow before Father Fauci. They throw their Patagonia fleeces before him to ease his way as he passes like palm fronds in the streets of Jerusalem. They consider him holy.
That clip was from December 2020. Now, this went on for more than a year. Then, suspiciously, this February, before the invasion of Ukraine, the mood changed. All of a sudden, our political leaders stopped worshiping Tony Fauci. Instead, now, they're pretending he doesn't exist. Take a look at this side by side. You see the Tony Fauci pillow behind the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer? Now, that shot is from last year. The next shot, that one's from February. It's in the exact same location in Gretchen Whitmer's house. Do you notice anything different? No more Tony Fauci pillow. Presumably, the blue and yellow Ukraine pillow is on the way from Amazon to take Tony Fauci's place at the governor's residence. Now, that's cold, Gretchen, though. That's cold. But not the coldest treatment Tony Fauci received. Our media has completely iced out poor Tony. On his Substack, journalist Jordan Schachtel looked into this, and he found that Tony Fauci's agency, the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, has stopped uploading his media appearances to their website. The agency has a section on their website called Dr. Fauci in the News, and after receiving near daily updates throughout the pandemic, as of yesterday, that section hadn't added a new appearance since February 17th. That date, of course, by the way, well before the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So the media is done with Tony Fauci, and not because of Vladimir Putin. Joe Biden's internal pollsters told him last month to declare victory on COVID and move on, and that's exactly what he's doing. But it's a really sad moment for Tony Fauci, and it seems it's a moment he can't move on from. He's still clinging to fame, hoping to appear on just one more magazine cover, throw out one more first pitch at a Nationals game. So he's still doing whatever media appearances he can get, including the lamest podcasts and comedy shows you can find on the internet. Here, for example, is Tony Fauci on something called the 85 South Comedy Show, explaining why we aren't vaccinating bats. As you watch, I want you to imagine what's going through Tony Fauci's head.
Funny as this question may sound, how come the focus hasn't been getting bats vaccinated? Because it seems like it's a lot of bats and animals and all of these type of things. So you hear that and you think, well, wouldn't it be more prudent to just worry about getting the bat population under control and before it gets to human?
Well, that's not an unreasonable question, except logistically it's impossible. There are trillions of bats in the world. How are you going to be able to capture them and vaccinate each of them?
Impossible, but funny to picture Dr. Leanna Wen sitting out there in a cave trying to inject a bat with the Moderna vaccine. A little bit of a comedic image in your mind. And look, we're poking fun, but to be fair, I give those guys some credit. The hosts of 85 South Comedy Show, they're at least, thinking independently and asking Fauci original questions that make him think on his feet. Look, he never had to do that on CNN. But now that he's reduced to 85 South Comedy Show, he's got to do some improvising. Why don't we vaccinate the monkeys, Tony Fauci? Explain it to us slowly. Doesn't it? He doesn't like having to answer questions from an independent media, not one bit. And you can see that, by the way. You can see it in what's left of Tony Fauci's dying soul as he answers that question. But he has to do it. He has no other choice now. The mainstream media doesn't care about him anymore, and as you'd expect, that's made Fauci a very bitter man. He's getting angrier by the day. To be fair, he's not the only one. According to the AP, North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un, also feeling left out, minutes ago fired at least one suspected ballistic missile into the sea towards Japan. He needs some attention, too. But no one wants attention more than Tony Fauci. And if you doubt that, check out the latest Woke AF daily podcast. By the way, AF, it means woke as the F word. I'm here for you. Now, if you're not familiar with the Woke AF daily podcast, it's not surprising. It gets an audience of around 700 viewers on YouTube. But yesterday, Tony Fauci was the podcast's featured guest, and Fauci wanted Woke AF's 700 viewers to know that the unvaccinated Americans are very, very, very bad people.
There are many people for a variety of reasons. Many of them are politically, I wouldn't say motivated, I don't mean motivated, but have a political tinge to it about not wanting to get vaccinated, saying, I'll worry about myself and I'll take care of myself and I'll take the risk. But when you're dealing with a transmissible virus, you have a personal responsibility to yourself and to your family, but you also have a responsibility to society.
It's not clear exactly what stage of grief Tony Fauci is in. It's probably somewhere between denial and anger. And that means, you know, what's next: bargaining, depression, and then finally acceptance. But it's going to be a tough one for Tony Fauci to admit that his masters no longer need him, that his worshipers no longer revere him. So we're going to call it about 2 weeks to flatten the ego. We're confident Tony Fauci will get there, even if it takes a little longer than 2 weeks.